Mira sat on the edge of her bed in a tiny room on the lower levels of New Terrace Station. The lights above flickered once, then steadied. Rent was late again. Her shoes had holes. Her medical bag was worn from years of use. And worst of all, the clinic where she worked had just shut down due to funding cuts. She stared at her compad. There were only 2 job offers. One was for a risky off-world medical mission, no thanks. The second was odd. It said, private nurse needed, live-in position. High pay. Location, Sector 7, Dome 41. Must keep all client details confidential. Myra raised an eyebrow. She had never heard of that dome before. Sector 7 was quiet, far from the busy ports and markets, and live-in? That was unusual. Still, high pay caught her attention. With barely enough money for food, she couldn't afford to say no. She pressed the accept button. The next day, Mira stood outside Dome 41. The entrance was sleek, quiet, and protected by a layer of glowing shields. 2 small drones scanned her ID, then led her through a smooth glass corridor into a beautiful, clean home. It felt like stepping into a different world, calm, silent, and too perfect. A voice came from a nearby panel. "You are Nurse Mira?" "Yes," she said, adjusting her worn uniform. "Please proceed to the East Hall. The client is expecting you." The doors opened on their own. Mira stepped into a large room filled with light and soft music. In the center, sitting in a black hover chair, was a man. He looked to be in his early 30s. He had sharp features, dark hair, and calm eyes, but he didn't look up. His hands rested on the armrests of the chair. UNMOVING. Mira stepped forward slowly. "Hello, I'm Mira. I've been sent here as your nurse." The man didn't speak for a long moment. Then finally, in a quiet voice, he said, "Torin. That's your name?" He gave a slight nod. She looked around. The machines were high-end. The room was spotless. Yet something felt lonely about the place. Cold, even. There were no photos. No personal items. Just silence. "I'll do my best to care." "For you," she said, trying to sound warm. "Do you have a medical file?" Torin pressed a button on the side of his chair. A screen floated in the air beside her, showing his records. Mira scanned the data. Full lower body paralysis. Old injury. No signs of treatment since initial recovery. No family listed. No visits. Just isolation. "I see," Mira said gently. "How long have you been living like this?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned his chair away slightly. Mira didn't push. She knew pain when she saw it. "I'll set up my things and start with a light checkup," she said. "If that's all right." He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no either. Later that evening, Mira sat in the guest room she'd been given. It was more comfortable than her own home. A real bed, clean sheets, a window that looked out over the stars. Still, she couldn't stop thinking about Torin. He wasn't just injured. He seemed broken inside. Not angry, not rude, just distant. Cold, like someone who had locked his heart away. She wondered why someone so rich, clearly rich, based on the technology in the house, would live alone, hidden from the world. Her job had only just begun. But Mira knew one thing for sure. There's more to Torin than met the eye. And somehow, she had a feeling her life was about to change. Forever. Mira woke up early. For the first time in weeks, she hadn't been woken by the sound of pipes leaking or neighbors arguing. The room was quiet, peaceful. A soft hum from the air filters filled the space. She dressed in her cleanest uniform and tied her hair back neatly. Though the house was luxurious, Mira didn't feel like she belonged there. Everything was too perfect, too polished. But she reminded herself she was here to work. She walked down the silent hallway toward the main room where Torin stayed. As she entered, she found him exactly where she had left him the night before, in the black hover chair, facing the large window. The stars were still visible outside. Tiny lights scattered across the dark space beyond New Terra Station. Good morning, Mira said gently. Torin didn't turn around. You're early. I prefer to start early. The body and mind work better in the morning, she replied with a small smile. I thought we'd begin with a basic checkup. No pressure. He gave a short nod but said nothing else. Mira approached slowly. She kept her tone calm and warm. In her training, she had been taught how to deal with trauma. Many patients needed time, and this man Torin was clearly carrying something heavy. She started the checkup quietly. His muscles had weakened more than she expected. His legs were thin, almost unused. She noticed signs that he hadn't allowed anyone to help him properly for years. No therapy, no regular care. Just survival. You haven't had regular treatment in a long time, she said gently. I don't need it, he said without looking at her. Mira paused. You might not want it, but your body does. He didn't respond. Instead of pushing further, she continued her work. She checked his vitals, recorded notes, and cleaned a few old scars. Her hands were gentle, her eyes kind. She didn't ask personal questions. She didn't pry. After a while, Torin finally spoke. You're different from the others. What others? The last nurses. They talked too much, pretended to care, then left. Mira looked at him softly. I don't pretend. If I'm here, I care. That's just who I am. Torin didn't say anything. But for a second, his eyes met hers, and there was something there. A flicker of something buried deep. Then, just as quickly, it was gone. Later that day, Mira explored the house while Torin rested. She needed to understand the environment if she was going to care for him properly. The house was run by advanced AI cleaners, meal systems, temperature controls. Everything responded to voice commands. It was quiet, efficient, and lonely. There were no family pictures. No signs of life beyond Torin. In the study, she noticed a locked terminal with a strange logo on it. It looked familiar, like something from an old tech company, but she didn't touch it. It wasn't her place. As the day passed, Mira kept her distance but stayed nearby in case Torin needed her. He didn't ask for anything, not food, not help, not even conversation. But just before she left the room to rest, he surprised her. You have a calm voice, he said quietly. She turned, a little surprised. Thank you. It doesn't feel forced. She smiled softly. It's not. Torin looked at her again. For the first time, there was no coldness in his eyes. Just tiredness. And maybe curiosity. That night, Mira sat by her window again, watching the stars. She thought about Torin, about how someone could have everything and still live like a shadow. He was a man in a chair, yes. But there was more to him. She could feel it. Mira didn't know his full story, but something told her this was no ordinary patient. This was a soul locked in silence, waiting to be heard, and she was ready to listen. The days moved quietly in Dome 41. Every morning, Mira followed the same routine. She greeted Torin with a soft good morning, helped him with his basic needs, checked his health, and prepared fresh meals using the home's automated kitchen. He still barely spoke, but he no longer avoided her completely. Small things began to change. He allowed her to adjust his chair settings. He let her guide his hand during light therapy sessions. And sometimes, when he thought she wasn't looking, he watched her curious, as if trying to understand who she really was. Mira noticed, but never said a word. She didn't push. She waited. One afternoon, while Mira was helping him stretch his arms, Torin broke the silence. You said you worked at a clinic? She looked at him, surprised. It was the first time he had asked her something personal. Yes, she said with a small smile. A public clinic in Sector 3. Nothing fancy, but we helped many people. Why did you leave? It was closed, she replied softly. low funding. No support from the health board. Torin's jaw tightened. That happens. Too often, she nodded. Yes, but people still need help. So, I came here. He didn't speak again for a while, but Mira could tell something in him was shifting. He wasn't as cold as he seemed. There was warmth inside him, buried, but real. That evening, Mira cleaned a storage cabinet near the back of the house. She found a few old boxes filled with tech tools, some metal parts, and wires. At the bottom of one box, she noticed a cracked glass tablet. When she turned it on, a faded image appeared. It was Torin standing tall, in a clean white suit, holding a silver award. People stood behind him, clapping. The image had a headline, Torin Gray, Genius Engineer Wins Galactic Innovator Prize. Mira blinked. Her heart skipped. Torin Gray. She knew that name. He wasn't just anyone. He had designed the early AI systems used across New Terra and beyond. She had read about him in old tech journals during her school days. He had vanished after a ship accident almost 5 years ago. Everyone thought he had died, but he hadn't. He was here. In this house. In that chair. Her hands trembled slightly as she turned off the tablet and placed it back in the box. Later that night, Torin sat by the window, staring at the stars. Mira approached quietly. I found an old photo, she said gently. You looked proud in it. Torin didn't answer. You were standing, smiling. He turned to her slowly. His eyes didn't show anger, only tiredness. You know now, he said simply. Mira nodded. I do. Are you going to leave? She looked at him with soft eyes. Why would I leave? People change when they know, he said. They act different. They want something. Mira shook her head. I don't want anything. I only came here to help someone who needed care. That hasn't changed. Torin studied her face for a long moment. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. A wall had cracked just a little. You're not like the others, he said softly. No, she replied. I'm just Mira. That night, Torin stayed by the window longer than usual. Mira brought him tea without asking. He accepted it. They sat in silence, side by side, not as nurse and patient, but as two people who understood quiet pain. Mira didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was clear now. Torin wasn't just a man in a chair. He was someone who had once touched the stars and fallen. And slowly, she was helping him rise again. The morning air inside Dome 41 was warm and calm. Soft sunlight filtered through the tinted glass panels above, creating a peaceful glow across the floor. Mira moved quietly through the home, preparing Torin's morning drink, herbal tea, just the way he liked it now. He hadn't asked for it, but every day, he accepted it with a small nod. Today, something was different. Mira found Torin sitting near the center of the room, not by the window where he usually stayed. The hover chair faced a wall lined with old tools and half-built machines. For the first time, he wasn't silent. Do you know how many ships I designed before the accident? He asked. Mira was surprised by the question, but answered gently. No, but I imagine it was many. 13, he said. And not just ships. I helped build life support systems for colonies on Mars Belt, navigation systems for deep space miners. I was only 28 when I got that award you saw. You were brilliant, Mira said softly. I was fast, Torin replied. Too fast, too trusting. He turned slightly toward her, eyes calm but serious. I had partners, people I thought were friends. We built Grey Nova Industries together. But after I invented the self-learning control unit, everything changed. It could learn faster than any human. It could keep ships safe without full crews. I've heard of those, Mira said. We used one in the medical shuttle back at the clinic. Torin nodded. That was mine. And when it became successful, they wanted it for themselves. They saw money, power, and I was in the way. Mira sat down quietly across from him. She didn't interrupt. "They sabotaged my test flight," he said. "I was injured. The ship exploded minutes after I was pulled out. They told the world I died. I let them. But why?" Mira asked gently. "Because I didn't want to fight anymore," he whispered. "I was broken. My body. My spirit. And I didn't trust anyone. Until now." Mira felt the weight of his words. It was a story full of pain, one that had left him. Not only in a chair, but behind a wall of silence and mistrust. "Thank you for telling me," she said. "I don't know why I did," he replied. "But it felt right." They sat in silence for a while. The machines around them hummed softly. It was a different kind of silence now, not cold, not empty. Just quiet and honest. Over the next few days, things changed again. Torrin began speaking. More often. Not about big things, just small, daily things. He asked Mira about her life, where she grew up, why she became a nurse. "I lost my mother when I was young," Mira told him one night. "She was sick. We had no help. No nurse came. For her, I promised myself I would become the person I wished we had." Torrin listened, eyes steady. "You kept that promise." She smiled gently. "I try." They started sharing meals together. Torrin even helped Mira adjust a broken medical scanner using tools from his old workbench. His fingers were still steady. His mind still sharp. "I haven't touched these in years," he said, holding a small circuit board. "You haven't forgotten anything," Mira replied. He looked at her. "Maybe not everything." One evening, Mira found an old music player in the back of a drawer. She dusted it off and played a soft tune from Earth's Past, a slow, peaceful melody. Torrin listened quietly, eyes closed. "This was my mother's favorite," he said after a moment. "She had good taste." Mira replied. He opened his eyes and looked at her. "You bring things back, Mira," he said. "Things I thought I lost." She felt her heart warm at his words. "I'm just doing my job," she said. "No," he replied softly. "You're doing more." That night, Mira sat by her window again, looking at the stars. Torrin wasn't the same man she had met days ago. The walls around his heart were starting to fall. Slowly, gently. And deep inside her, Mira felt something changing too. Not just duty. Something more. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. The atmosphere inside Dome 41 had changed. Torrin no longer felt like just a patient, and Mira no longer felt like just a nurse. There was something new in the air, something warm, silent, and steady. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was the kind of feeling that grew in quiet moments. Like when Mira brought him a new flavor of tea and waited to see his reaction, or when Torrin surprised her by adjusting the cleaner, bought to stop crashing into her boots every morning. He never said much, but his actions spoke. One evening, Mira was cleaning the garden dome, a small indoor space with real plants, rare on New Terra Station. The air was fresh, filled with the gentle scent of mint and flowers. As she trimmed the leaves, she heard the soft hum of Torrin's chair. "You've been here before?" she asked without turning. "Not since I moved in," he replied. "Why not? It's beautiful." "I didn't feel like I deserved beauty anymore," he said, voice low. Mira turned to him. "That's not true." He looked at the plants quietly. "Maybe it isn't." They sat in the garden for a while, saying nothing. A soft breeze from the oxygen system moved through the leaves. Torrin reached out and gently touched a small yellow flower. "It's alive," he whispered. "Yes," Mira said, "just like you." He looked at her, and for a moment, the silence between them felt full of meaning. The next day, Mira had trouble with her tablet. It kept turning off and making a strange sound. Torrin noticed and raised an eyebrow. "Let me see it." "You know how to fix these?" she asked. "I built something 10 times more advanced when I was 20, he said with a small smile. She handed it over with a playful smile of her own. "Show me then." Torrin rolled over to his old workbench, which Mira had helped clean a few days earlier. He pulled out tools with hands that remembered every wire, every chip. Within minutes, the tablet was working again. "There," he said. "Like new." Myra looked amazed. "You still have the touch." He shrugged, but a small flicker of pride lit his face. For the first time in years, he had done something useful. Not for business. Not for survival. But for someone who simply trusted him. Later that evening, as the stars lit the sky beyond the glass roof, Myra prepared dinner. She had learned how to cook using the home's AI kitchen. But this time, she wanted to do it herself. Torrin rolled in and smelled something familiar. "Is that Earth-style vegetable stew?" Myra laughed. "You know your food. My mother used to make it when I was sick." "Then I hope it tastes close." They ate together slowly in the quiet dining room. The lights were dim, and soft music played. In the background, "You're the first person I've shared a meal with in years," Torrin said suddenly. Myra looked at him gently. "I'm honored." He glanced at her. "You know, you didn't run away when you found out who I was. You didn't ask for money. Or favors. Because I didn't come here for those things," she said simply. He nodded. "I know. And that's why I trust you." The words were soft but heavy with meaning. As the night grew late, Myra helped him back to his room. She paused by the door. "You're improving," she said, "bit by bit." "Because of you," he replied. She smiled. "Because of you too. You let me in." For a second they stood in silence. Then Torrin said, "Good night, Myra." "Good night, Torrin." That night Myra couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, staring at the stars. Something had changed between them. Not fast. Not loud, but real. She came here to take care of a stranger. Now that stranger was becoming the most important part of her quiet world. And though he couldn't walk yet, something inside Torrin was standing again. Not with legs, but with heart. The air inside Dome 41 was different now. Not because of the filters or machines, but because of something Myra couldn't explain. Each day felt brighter. Each silence felt softer. Torrin was changing, and so was she. He spoke more now. Smiled. Sometimes. He even laughed once when she dropped a tray of fruits and blamed the cleaning bot. Myra had never thought caring for someone could feel like this. It didn't feel like work anymore. One morning, Torrin was sitting in the garden dome, staring at a sketch pad. Myra entered with his usual tea and noticed the pad in his hands. "I didn't know you draw," she said. "I don't. Not really. But today, I felt like sketching something. May I see?" He hesitated, then turned the pad. It was a rough drawing of a flower, the same kind that bloomed in the corner of the dome. Myra smiled. "That's beautiful." Torrin looked away. "It's not perfect. Nothing real ever is." There was a pause. Then he said, "You always say the right words." Myra sat beside him. "Maybe I just say what I feel." Later that day, while Myra was organizing medical supplies, Torrin rolled into the room with something strange on his lap. It was a metallic frame with cables and soft padding. "What's that?" she asked, curious. "A project," he replied. "I've been working on it at night. It's a walking assist frame, a simple version." Myra's eyes widened. "For you?" He nodded. "I wanted to try just once more." She walked over, her voice full of quiet support. "Do you want help testing it?" "Maybe tomorrow," he said. "It's not ready." But she could see the hope in his eyes, a small flame. And for the first time, he looked not like a man trapped, but a man dreaming again. That evening, the sky above the dome was painted in deep orange and gold. Myra and Torrin sat near the wide window, watching ships pass in the distance. "I used to fly those," Torrin said quietly. "Fast, smooth, like dancing in space. You miss it?" Myra asked. "Every day," he replied. "But now, one miss. Other things more." She looked at him, waiting. "I miss trust. I miss someone beside me who doesn't want something." "You have that now," she said softly. He turned his eyes to her. I know. Silence fell between them again. This time it was full of emotion. Neither of them could speak right away. But Torin's voice finally broke it. Mira, can I tell you something? She nodded. I didn't just start building that frame to walk again. I started it because you gave me a reason to try. Mira's heart beat faster. I was ready to stay in this chair forever, he continued. Not because of my legs, but because I thought no one could see me anymore. Not the real me. I see you, Torin, she said quietly. He looked straight into her eyes. And I see you. I see how kind you are, how strong. You didn't come here for money or fame. You came to care. I did, she whispered. Torin's voice was softer now. And somewhere between all the days you stayed beside me, I fell in love with you. Mira felt her breath catch. She wasn't shocked, but hearing it still made her chest feel warm and full. Torin, she began. I don't expect anything, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know. She reached out and gently placed her hand over his. I don't know what this is yet, she said honestly. But I feel it too. His eyes softened. You do? She nodded. You're not just someone I care for. You've become someone I care about. For a moment, nothing moved. Not the air, not the lights. Just two people sitting quietly, with hearts finally open. That night, Mira stood by her window again, but she didn't feel alone. She knew something special had started. Something that didn't come from riches or fame or even healing. It came from truth. From trust. And from love growing quietly between two souls who had almost given up. The next morning was quiet, but something had clearly changed. Torin sat near the window again, but this time there was no distant look in his eyes. He seemed calm, almost peaceful. His hands rested on his lap, and the light from the dome roof made his features softer. Mira entered with a tray, smiling as always. Good morning. Good morning, he replied, looking up at her with warmth. They didn't speak of the night before, not yet. But both of them could feel it, an invisible thread between them, stronger than before. After breakfast, Torin showed Mira the walking assist frame again. He had made new adjustments. I think it's ready, he said. Mira's eyes lit up. You're sure? He nodded. I don't know how long I'll stand, but I want to try. They moved to the central room where the floor was flat and wide. Mira helped him into the frame gently. It wrapped around his legs and connected to his waist, with sensors attached to his arms. The machine hummed softly. Torin held onto the handles, breathing slow and deep. Are you ready? She asked. He gave a quiet nod. Mira activated the system. The frame responded. Slowly, carefully, it began to lift his body upward. Torin's legs shook slightly. He gritted his teeth but didn't fall. Mira stood beside him, holding her breath. Then step by step Torin moved, one foot forward, then the other. He didn't go far, just a few steps, but to Mira, it felt like watching someone touch the sky. He stumbled, and before he could fall, Mira caught him with both hands. I've got you, she whispered. He looked at her breathless. I walked. You did, she said with a smile full of pride. You really did. They stood there, her arms around him, closer than ever before, and in that moment, the silence between them wasn't empty. It was full of meaning, full of something real. Later, they sat outside in the garden dome. Torin's legs were weak again, and he returned to his chair. But there was a glow in his face, something Mira hadn't seen before. Hope. I never thought I'd stand again, he said. You stood because you believed you could, Mira replied. That's more powerful than any machine. Torin looked at her with soft eyes. No, I stood because you believed in me first. Mira didn't know what to say. Her heart felt full. He didn't need fancy words. The way he looked at her was enough. As night fell, the two of them shared tea in the soft light of the main room. Music played gently in the background, something old and slow. Torin reached out and placed a small box on the table. "What's this?" Mira asked. "Something I made," he replied. She opened it carefully. Inside was a tiny music player, hand-built, with her name carved on the side. "It plays one song," he said. "The one we listened to in the garden." Mira ran her fingers across the smooth surface. "You made this for me?" He nodded. "You brought music back into my life. I wanted to give something in return." Her voice trembled. "This is the kindest thing anyone's ever given me." Torin hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. "I may not have flowers or poems, but everything I make with my hands, I make with my heart." Mira's eyes welled up. "That's more than enough." As the music played, they sat close. No words were needed anymore. Mira gently leaned her head on his shoulder. He didn't move away. The stars above shined through the dome roof, silent witnesses to a love that had grown in quiet moments, built from trust, honesty, and care. Torin had once believed he would never walk again. Now, he had taken his first steps, not just on his feet, but toward someone who saw him, truly saw him, for who he was. And Mira? She came to heal a broken body, but she had healed a broken heart, including her own.